Hi, algebra students. Today we're going to talk about lesson 1.3, day 3, solving multi-step linear equations with variables on the same side. So remember that multi-step or multi-step just means that there might be a couple things that we need to do on each side of the equation before we begin. Quick review. To solve an equation means you need to simplify each side. Remember, this can include distribution or combining like terms. And then after that, we're going to use germ dose but backwards because that's the reverse order of operations. Remember that the word inverse is like opposite, so addition cancels subtraction, multiplication cancels division, and vice versa, etc. All right, let's take a look at number 1. As you can see, the variable is on the left side. It's also with, the variable is multiplied with -6/7, and it also has a 4 and a 1 on the same side. So we are going to clean it up by combining like terms. I can combine 4 plus 1, and the -6/7 x stays the same. Okay, since -6/7 x and 5 are not like terms because they don't have the -6/7 x has a variable and the 5 doesn't, we're going to go ahead and start using germ does but backwards. So we're going to cancel addition and subtraction first. So get rid of the 5. And remember, your goal is to isolate the variable. So our job is to cancel the numbers that are on the same side as the variable. Okay, now remember, this is a video, so you can pause, rewind, and stop at any time if you feel like it's going too quickly. All right, we've got -6/7, so we're going to flip that fraction and use its reciprocal, and we're going to do it to both sides. Remember that when you are canceling a fraction, you want to make sure you keep the same sign as the original fraction. So 6/7 was negative. So you want to multiply with -7/6 so that negative times negative is positive. Your final answer should always have a +1 as your final coefficient. Okay, so what's -18 times -7/6? You should get 21. So if you haven't put that in your calculator, make sure that you are practicing using all the keys and correct buttons on your calculator. Okay, let's take a look at number 2. We've got 9x minus parentheses 4 plus 3x. I've got some like terms, but if you notice, the 3x and the 9x can't combine yet because the 3x is stuck inside the parentheses. So what I can do is I can distribute the -1 that's in front of the parentheses. Now remember, when you're distributing, you are multiplying. So the 9x comes down. You have -1 times 4, -4, and -1 times 3x, which is -3x. Once that 3x is outside of the parentheses, you can go ahead and combine it with the 9x. So you're going to do 9x minus 3x. And there's nothing else I can combine, so now I can start canceling addition and subtraction. So this is germ does backwards. Cancel addition and subtraction first, then multiplication or division. Now remember, you're trying to get rid of the numbers that are on the same side as the variable. So here you want to divide by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. Remember, that's what your final coefficient should always be, +1. -4 over 6 is not a perfect answer, so you want to reduce it by 2, and that'll give you -2/3. Okay, so again, you should be either doing this in your head or on your calculator just to make sure that you know how to put it in the calculator and get the answer. A lot of times students, especially when they're learning something, they just kind of copy whatever the teacher does on the board. And you really, as a math student, you need to make sure that you are thinking about what the teacher does, and anything the teacher does in terms of calculations, you should be doing them as well. Okay, so it looks like I've got some like terms. Notice that the variables are on the right side this time. But again, the 4x is in the parentheses and the x on the right is outside. So I'm going to use distribution, which is the same as multiplication, to get that variable to be outside of the parentheses so that I can combine it with the x, the minus x, that's all the way on the right. Okay, so 3 halves times 4. Remember, you can pause the video at any time. You should get 6x. Then 3 halves times -6. You should get -9. Okay, so it's a good time to pause the video and practice putting that in your calculator if you need to borrow or use a calculator. We've got some like terms, so I'm going to go ahead and combine those. 6x minus 1x is 5x. And remember, your job now is to isolate the variable to get it by itself, canceling addition and subtraction first, then canceling any multiplication or division. So here I want to cancel the 5. Since it's being multiplied, I'm going to divide, and I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. 5 divided by 5 gives you the 1x that you want always in your as your final coefficient. And your answer is -2. Okay, so in the next example, it looks like I've got some like terms, right? But one of them is inside the parentheses, so I'm going to go ahead and distribute. This time I'm distributing a -2.5 times 1x and -2.5 times -4.8. So that's going to bring down, we have to bring down the 1.5x, and then we're going to do -2.5 times x and -2.5 times -4.8, which should give you 12. Now I can combine like terms that are on the same side. So if the terms are on the same side, you just combine them. But if the terms are on opposite sides, which we're going to learn in the future, you're going to have to cancel one to move it to the other side. So just as a heads up, that's what's going to be coming up. So again, if the variables are on the same side, you just combine them. But in a little bit, in a couple lessons, we're going to learn what to do when there's variables on both sides. All right, so notice right now I'm getting rid of the numbers that are on the same side as the variable x, starting with addition and subtraction because we're following germ does backwards. Now, make sure that you don't stop here because we want our final coefficient to be a positive one. So I need to divide by -1 so that these become a positive one. You should always have a positive 1 as your final coefficient, not a -1. Okay. So again, it looks like I have some like terms. I have a 2 and a 10. They're both just regular constants, but the 2, the -2 is inside the parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply -3 times 3r and -3 times -2. Remember, negative times negative is positive. And don't forget to bring down the 10, right? You didn't get to, it wasn't in the parentheses, so we didn't have to distribute the -3 to it. I've got some like terms. 6 minus 10. Remember, when you subtract a bigger number from a smaller one, your answer is always going to be negative. Then focus on your variable. You want to isolate it or get it by itself, starting with canceling any addition or subtraction. and then any multiplication or division. When you divide, make sure that your final coefficient is a positive 1. Okay, so negative 3 divided by 9 is not 3. Um, 9 over 3 is 3. Okay, but here we want 3 over 9. That's 1/3 because you could reduce by 3. Oops, and I just realized I forgot my negative 9 from over here. Very, very important not to lose any negatives. Okay, so good thing I just double checked everything right now. I think that's something really important and an important skill for anyone to have is to take a minute and just make sure that they're on the right track. So the 9r was negative and I had dropped it along the way. So I'm going to put it back. Negative 3 divided by negative 9 is going to be 1/3. Positive 1/3. Self-check, right, and self-evaluation is a really important skill to have, and not even just math, but in general, okay? So sometimes you got to stop for a second and ask yourself, what am I doing? Am I on the right track? Okay. In previous lessons, we did distribution problems where we had to distribute twice because there were two sets of parentheses. So this is one of those examples. We're going to multiply negative 1/3 times 12n and negative 1/3 times negative 24. Negative times negative is positive. I also need to distribute a negative 1 to all the terms in the second parentheses. So negative 1 times 2n is negative 2n, and negative 1 times 12 is negative 12. Then I'm going to look for like terms. I've got a couple that I can combine. I've got the linear terms, negative 4n minus 2n, which is going to give me negative 6n. And then we've got 8 minus 12, which is going to give you negative 4. Okay, eyes on the prize. We want to isolate the variable and get it by itself. So first we're going to go ahead and cancel any addition or subtraction. And remember, guys, the variable could be on the left side or the right side of the equal sign. That changes, okay? Your job is to get rid of the numbers that are multiplied or divided, added or subtracted with the variable so that your final coefficient is a positive 1 in front of your variable. Okay, since the negative 6 is multiplied with the n, we're going to divide by negative 6. I want to make sure that it is negative so that when I divide these, I get positive 1. 10 divided by negative 6 does not come out to a perfect answer, a perfect whole number. So what we need to do is reduce. So I can reduce both of these by 2, and my answer is going to be negative 5/3. As always, if you feel like you need extra help, don't be shy. Ask us. Talk to you soon. See you next time.